Welcome inside the RX Muscle Studios here in New York for another episode of Ask Dave, better known as hashtag Ask Dave. I'm your host, Sadiq Faruqi. Glad you can join us on this Tuesday, the 26th day of July in the year 2016. The reason that we're coming live today and not tomorrow, Dave is going to be traveling tomorrow and for the rest of the week. If you just joined us right now here on RX Muscle, you just missed one heck of an interview. We were live with Victor Martinez. That's right, Victor Martinez. This interview is available right now on our YouTube channel as well as rxmuscle.com. And there is a reason why we did not promote the interview as we now bring in Dave Palumbo. Dave, we didn't want a repeat of what happened with Kevin Levrone.
Yeah, I always wanted to interview Victor since, I started RX Muscle, and he's always been tied up with Bleckman. Matter of fact, I'm probably the first guy who interviewed him after he tore his patella tendon years ago when I was with Muscular Development. The thing was we never had a chance to, and once I realized he no longer was exclusive to Bleckman and that Bleckman was just maybe paying him sporadically, I don't know. I asked him if he'd like to do the interview, and when he said yes, I said, you know what, I'm not advertising it. I said, I'm not putting it out there so I can have Bleckman, Victor, I don't do the interview with RX. I didn't want any of that going on. I didn't want him putting the kibosh on it, so I figured let's just do the interview. We'll put it up. There were still 1,000 people who somehow saw it live, and we didn't give any notice whatsoever. And so I have to assume that when people saw the name Victor, they wanted to hear what he had to say. But I will say this, and I said this to him after the interview was over. I said, Victor, that was the most honest and best interview you've ever done with anyone. And I'm not saying this because it was me. It was just he was so forthright, and he was so open about who he is and who he's become and what he came from that I think people are going to find it refreshing. You can't not root for this guy after you listen to this interview. So, guys, thank you. I want to also thank you, I should say, for helping us to achieve 50,000 subscribers. I asked you last week if you would help us, if you haven't subscribed and you watch these shows, to click the subscribe button below. And I hate begging for anything because that's just not in my makeup. But you know what? I know you guys watch the programming. If you like what we do, it shows us that you support it. It shows our advertisers that, that there are people out there that really care about what we're doing out there. So if you do like this programming and you're watching and you haven't subscribed, subscribe to the channel. Because now I'm greedy. I got 50,000, now I want 75,000 subscribers. And ultimately, I'll want 100,000. So let's build to that. Feel free always to submit your questions. I am here to answer anything and everything you guys ask me. I don't hold back on anything. And so, Sid, without further ado, let's get this started.
Let's get to the questions. We're going to start on the Muscle Central forum on rxmuscle.com. If you're not already registered, it is free to do so. Again, keep in mind we are roughly 7 weeks away from Olympia 2016. You're going to want to see all the photos from that and the post-Olympia tour. That is the way to see them. As we go to Benedue 14, I hate this show so much, I would rather listen to John Romano yap about police for an hour on Heavy Muscle Radio. Question: do you take it personally when clients go from you to another coach? An example, some of your former clients now work with Chris Aceto. How does that affect the dynamic of your friendship?
I could care less. I don't lose any sleep over it. You know what? I learned long ago, because we all have strong egos and we get insulted when people, I know Chris gets insulted when people leave him. And I said, Chris, you know what I told him once? I said, who gives a rat's ass? Everyone wants to try something different. Everyone thinks the grass is greener over there. I think people should have coaches who they feel comfortable working with. And you know what? I know guys that work with coaches that are not that good, but that they have a good chemistry with that person. And sometimes having a good chemistry with the person is more important than the knowledge than they're imparting to you. So, no, I don't take it personally because I have guys that have left me and come back 3 or 4 times. If I was a guy who took it personally, I wouldn't take them back. Chris won't take people back usually. So it doesn't matter to me, and like I said, it doesn't affect my life. You have to be happy with your life, and you have to feel comfortable with who you're working with. And sometimes people think that they're missing something because I'm not telling them to do a certain thing that they heard that they should do, and they go try it and it doesn't work and they come back. And then some people go and try other things and they like it better and they go back and they don't come back. And to me, I have friendships with people that I used to work with, and and it is what it is. There's no hard feelings. And then, like I said, I want the athlete to feel comfortable with who they're working with. A lot of times I enjoy working with people earlier in their career to help mold them for later in their career. Juan Morel and I are very good friends. He doesn't work with another coach, but he doesn't work with me anymore. We might work together next year, but regardless, all his knowledge, and he's always given me credit on every interview he's done, has come from what I taught him over the beginning stages of his career. So to me, to see guys take the knowledge that I impart and spread it around, that makes me proud.
Let's go to Wiggs on the Muscle Central Forum. I'm only saying I hate the show because you asked me to, but all your shows keep bodybuilding fun and exciting. My question is regarding ketosis, because your energy source is fat from your body and the food you eat. Shouldn't you be able to work out a lot longer and harder since you're not depending on glycogen as an energy source? I've been doing a ketogenic diet for the last 5 weeks, and I've had some of the best workouts I've had in terms of energy levels and intensity. After I'm finished, I'm not dead tired as opposed to when I use carbs as a fuel source. It's blowing my mind. I'll probably never go back to carbs unless I want to add some serious size. Shouldn't one always be in a constant fat-burning state when in ketosis 24/7?
Okay, there's one thing that you're missing here is that when you do high-intensity activity like weight training, you use carbs as a fuel source. The only thing that you're not using, the reason why you feel good in ketosis is because your brain is not using blood sugar anymore. And when the brain doesn't have to depend on glucose for fuel, okay, your blood sugar stays stable all the time. When your blood sugar is stable and the brain has an unlimited access of energy from not only the fats we eat but the stored body fat, you feel good. And when you feel good, you can train hard. Okay, when you feel good, you don't have cravings. When you feel good, you don't want to cheat. And when you feel good, usually you have good results on the diet. So what you're experiencing is the euphoria in your brain. Your brain feels good, okay? And it doesn't feel tired and it doesn't feel like it's craving carbs because it's not using carbohydrates as a fuel source. That's the advantage. And what I tell people, especially in my Diet Secrets to Becoming a Diet Guru course, which, by the way, I'm holding again on August 27th. If anyone wants to sign up, go to davepalumbo.com. If you don't, you're going to run out of spots. They're filling up very quickly. But anyway, to get back, one of the things I teach at the Guru class is that the reason why I believe a ketogenic diet works so well for the majority of people out there is because the majority of people who try to lose weight and drop body fat fail because they cheat. Why do they cheat? Because they feel bad. They have cravings, they get irritable. And why do they have all these cravings and get irritable and feel hungry? Because their blood sugar levels are unstable. And the brain is very, very temperamental on how much blood sugar is there. So if blood sugar is low and the brain doesn't have it, you're gonna feel terrible. Ketosis levels that out because the brain isn't depending on that glucose. And I think that's the most important reason why a ketogenic diet works. Let's face it, most people who need to lose weight, even if you don't do a purely ketogenic diet, you will do a low-carb diet. And if you do a low-carb diet, you're going to feel crappy. It'll work. You'll lose weight because lowering your carbs will do it. But if you're going to go low carbs, you might as well go no carbs. That's what I say.
Let's go to Steve MX. What is the difference between being flat as compared to being spilled over? What causes both?
Well, if you look at glycogen stores, which is the stored form of glucose, and it's where is it stored? In the muscles and in the liver. But the glycogen that's stored in the muscle is what makes the muscle full. So think of your muscles or your muscle glycogen stores as the gas tank in your car. Okay, when the tank is filled up totally, the car is heavy, and you have a nice huge source of fuel for your body. Okay, when it's almost empty, the car is lighter. Okay. That's analogous to when your glycogen stores are low. When your glycogen stores are low in your body, you're going to look flat because you don't have as much gunk in your muscles, so to speak, and the fluid goes down because every gram of carbohydrate that's stored inside the muscle as glycogen pulls water with it, which makes the muscle swell. Low glycogen, flat. Large glycogen stores, almost filled to the hilt, huge and full round muscle bellies. If you overstore or you try to jam too much glycogen into those muscles because you're eating too many carbs, the spillage, okay, goes into fat, okay? The spillage goes to the fat cells and gets turned into fat. Also, when you're too full and you spill over, a lot of times fluid accumulates under the skin. That's called subcutaneous fluid. Doesn't look good. So we don't want to overfill the muscles. So you're better off being a little under glycogen loaded than too much or over glycogen loaded, because that's when what we say spill over. It's really not a spillover. It's just a fluid retention.
You're watching Ask Dave on RxMuscle.com, brought to you by Species Nutrition. Right now, taking questions from the RxMuscle.com Muscle Central forum. We go to Frank Semino 76. I hate this show more than Boston Lloyd's kidneys hate him. Dave, I'm currently finding it, I currently am finding myself having less and less motivation at the gym. Normally, this isn't a problem as I'm itching to train the next day. This could be due to stress, lack of sleep, etc. What are some things you have done over the years to help you keep motivated to train?
You know, I always train because I was passionate about training, because I love the way I feel when I'm in the gym. I like the way I look, the results of it. I only train 3 days a week now, not because I can't, not because I don't want to, but because I have limited time. But when I go to the gym those 3 days, it's like I'm in my own little world. And I'm not there very long, 45 minutes, because I got a baby now and I got a lot of responsibilities. But I enjoy it. Even when I go out and work out, go for a walk outside, I enjoy that because that's what I like to do. And when you get it taken away from you because you have an injury, like I had my quad injury or my quad repair, or you just don't have the time to do it, you miss it even more. So if you're dreading going to the gym, it could be that you're overtraining. You know, a lot of times you got to take a little break from the gym, and then you'll get back that eagerness to go back. I know people that, I remember Flex Wheeler always saying he hated the gym and that when he retired, he would never work out again. Well, when he had his kidney issues and he couldn't work out, he missed it. And nowadays he works out and he looks good because he remembers now, you know what? I hated the gym because I put too much pressure on myself to be a great bodybuilder. But now he can train for the joy of training. And so you got to go back to that joy of training. If it's becoming a job for you and you hate going, take a step back, take a couple days off, and reevaluate why you go to the gym.
Let's go to Sean Corrigan. I hate this show so much that every time a client cheats on their diet, I force them to watch one of your episodes. It has 100% success rate that they've never cheated again. What orals do you recommend on show day and what doses? Also, what foods would you recommend to eat on show days? I hear a lot of pros have a bigger breakfast, pancakes, eggs, than smaller, more easily digestible meals every 2.5 hours, like chicken, rice, and almond butter. What is your opinion on this?
Well, I don't really understand the pill part of it because, I tell people to continue doing whatever they've been doing in terms of the only thing I don't have them do any vitamins the day of the show because they're not drinking anything. So, but if they're taking clenbuterol or Cytomel or anti-estrogen, continue doing that. As far as what you eat, I like things that are easily digestible. Okay, so even though I do adhere to the idea of giving junkier food the morning of the show to really load a person up, because you got to remember what happens when you wake up the morning of the show. You're dehydrated, okay? You have a diuretic that's still working and pushing extra fluid out. So a lot of times people wake up very flat. Now you can't start guzzling water in the morning because it'll smooth you out completely. So what I have my guys do is I like whole eggs. Whole eggs digest really easy. They got good protein, good fat. I might have them eat 4 whole eggs, and then I usually have them do pancakes. Okay, pancakes are easily digestible. They're very light on the system. I have them put some butter on it, some syrup. And that's the first meal of the day. That usually wakes the body up, okay? And there's moisture inside the food, so you don't need to drink. That moisture gets pulled into the muscle, and that usually does the trick of waking up a body. Now, if the prejudging is not till like 5 or 6 o'clock at night, I might have them do a burger and fry meal during the day. Now, once I do that breakfast, with the pancakes, I usually stay pretty clean after that. I might do another 4 whole eggs with a cup of rice. I might do some, I keep the protein kind of lower. On contest day, 4 ounces of protein, maybe 50 grams of white rice or cream of rice. I keep the meals clean after that first meal, which kind of restores the body. Because you don't want to have a big, huge, swollen gut when you get on stage either, because it's all filled up with food. It's hard to go to the bathroom the day of the show, move your bowels and stuff like that, because you're so dried out. So you don't want to be putting enormous amounts of food that are hard to digest into the body.
Let's go to Weedlejuice. In the Egyptian interview with Dennis James, he mentions his gurus having him on so much gear that he would be getting frequent nosebleeds, etc. What do you think they had him doing to get in that state, considering they would make him take it in front of them just to make sure if Dennis is to be believed?
I don't know. But I've seen guys get nosebleeds from too much Anadrol. Anadrol really raises your blood pressure really quickly. And if you strain with high blood pressure, the blood vessels in your nose are kind of weak and they can blow out. I've seen guys get I've seen guys that weren't even on gear that got nosebleeds every time we squatted with them. I had a guy I used to train with who every time we squatted, he got a nosebleed. And I was way bigger than he was, and I was lifting way more weights than he was, and I wasn't getting nosebleeds. So it's individual. It's very variable.
Cali Muscle, not that Cali Muscle, Cali Muscle. Dave, I hate this show so much that I only watch it while I take my morning 30-minute dump. No, but really, big fan of your show. Watching every video you post. I'm from California, 24 years old, 3 weeks out of my first show. I'm currently running Test E, 750 mg a week, 30 mg Winstrol, and 300 mg Tren A. I heard I'm supposed to stop running only Test before a show since Test makes you hold water. If so, when should I stop running it? And do I up the dosage on the other compounds? Also, do you want to answer that first?
Sure.
Because then he goes on to ask about diuretic and peak weeks. So.
Sure. I have the guys usually cut the test like on Wednesday before the show, not because the test is going to make you hold any more water, because it's irrelevant, because we can pull the water out with diuretics and fluid restriction. That's not the reason. The reason is because we usually up the other compounds. So if you're doing Trenbolone every other day and Winstrol every other day, I usually have guys do it every day the last week of the show. So there's no reason to run all that test. It's just too many shots. The truth is that if you look great, and I say this all the time, a week out, 10 days out, 2 weeks out from a show, why change anything? Why pull anything out? Now, what I have learned, and I have worked with a few people, is that some people you need to pull growth hormone out of because they just hold too much water with it. Certain bodybuilders just are water buffaloes, and GH just makes it really, really hard to get rid of water. Not everyone. Most guys I can get rid of water easy with diuretics and fluid restriction, but for some reason, growth hormone in certain bodies just make them hold, and you can give them diuretics from today to tomorrow, they're not going to get rid of that water. So that's the only exception to the rule that of something that I might stop before a show.
The second part of the question was, which diuretic do you recommend for peak week? How much of it and how much water should he be consuming during peak week?
Well, without doing a homework assignment, which I don't do, because he's asking me too many specifics. I'm a big believer in Diazide as a diuretic. I've talked about that before because it's a balanced diuretic. It's a potassium-sparing diuretic, but it works potently and very predictably. I only restrict water usually from 8 p.m. the night before the show, so that might be about a 12 or 14-hour water restriction. I don't limit salt until the day before the show. I don't water load anyone until at all, basically. I just cut water the day before the show. So my belief is that the less you do, the less kookier things you do, the better your results will be and more predictable. When you start adding sodium and loading water, now you're asking for trouble because you're imposing on the body conditions that haven't existed the whole diet, and the body might not respond the way you want it to. So change as little as possible.
Let's go to Delador on the Muscle Central forum on rxmuscle.com. Dave, I hate this show so much. Like Phil Heath hates guys who buy gifted nutrition products. Will the IFBB set weight limits higher in Classic Physique in the future? And if so, do you think the big Musclemania pros will switch into Classic Physique if it's a massive success?
That's an interesting question. And the question is, are the weight limits in Classic Physique adequate for the division? In other words, are they too high, too low? I think that if you start raising the weight limits per height, and for those of you who don't understand, classic bodybuilding is dictated, the limits of what you can weigh is dictated by your height. So for every certain height class or height increment, there's a certain weight that you can weigh. If you start raising those, you're creating another bodybuilding division now. I think that the main problem with Classic Physique, and I think this might be a good topic for Iron Debate, is the fact that no one is getting measured accurately. I know a guy I helped this past weekend. He's 6'2". It says 6'2" on his license. They measured him at 6 foot and 3/4 inches, and we thought his weight should have been a certain thing, and now he needed to be 10 pounds lighter than we thought he had to, and he killed himself to have to make weight. And it ruined, didn't ruin him, but it certainly hurt his look. So I think there has to be some standardization on what a person is height-wise. Maybe go back to the way they used to do figure. You get measured at the beginning of the year. If you get it put onto your NPC card or some kind of a certain height card, and you just show your card to everyone. You don't have to be remeasured at every single show, because that to me is a flaw. And the problem with Classic Physique is if you don't make the weight, you don't compete. there's nothing you can do. So if you go in and you think you're 6'2" and you can weigh 230, and you go in and you get measured at 6 foot, and now you only can weigh 210 or 215, whatever it is, you're screwed. Most guys can't lose that kind of weight, especially if you're measured the day of the show. So to me, that bothers me. As far as the weight classes for the heights, right now I think they're fine.
Let's take a couple of questions from Twitter. Let's go to Josh Gogwin. Are some people just not able to attain that shredded look due to having thick skin?
I believe that anyone can get shredded. I've worked with people who I was starving to death and giving tons of cardio to, and they weren't losing weight. And all of a sudden, we got to 2 weeks out from the show, and everything started working suddenly. Now, to me, that tells me they were cheating and that they realized, oh shit, I got 2 weeks before a show, I better buckle down. I believe that anyone can get in shape, assuming you don't have some kind of metabolic issue or low thyroid gland or anything like that. If you diet hard enough and you do the cardio and you take the fat burners, you gotta lose the weight, okay? You have to. Your body can't hold onto body fat when there's no energy there. Your body will have to metabolize and burn up that stored body fat if you suffer enough.
Let's go to Mike Pacholski. Dave, I hate this show so much. I would rather listen to contract signing advice from Aaron Singerman. Is it okay to drink Carbyl during a workout? I'm guessing he means as an intra.
If you're going to drink Carbyl as an intra-workout, which, I'm not a huge fan. I don't believe that you really need an intra-workout. But if you want to sip something with a little carbs in, I would dilute it down. I wouldn't drink a concentrated version of it because you don't need 40 grams of carbs while you're training. Maybe dilute it in half. Have 20 grams of carbs, same amount of water, 8, 10 ounces, 12 ounces of water, and just kind of sip that so you're getting like a dilute version of Carbyl. Once again, someone asked me this yesterday, and I said, what the interesting thing is? All these intra-workout shake people, those shakes that you're sipping during the workout, they're probably just laying in your stomach. And then when you're done with the workout, your body's absorbing the stuff. So it's not going to waste. It's just not getting used during the workout as you think they're being used. Because when you work out, the blood is shunted away from the digestive organs. It's shunted away from the kidneys. Go work out in the gym and do weight training sessions. Very rarely do people have to stop in the middle of a session unless they're guzzling a lot of fluid and go to the bathroom. The reason why they don't have to do that is because the kidneys shut themselves off, just like the organs of digestion do. And why do they do that? Because they're shuttling the blood to the working muscles where the body needs the blood so that we can have oxygen supply to the muscles. So you really can't absorb much in the way of nutrients while you're training. Now, having said that, do you really need it? If you're having a pre-workout meal or shake and you're having a post-workout meal or shake, okay, do you really need to eat something for the hour that you're training in the gym? I've said it a million times already. I'll continue to say it. It's ridiculous. If you're doing a 2-hour or 3-hour bike ride outside, or training for a triathlon, different story. Because now the glycogen stores are being tapped and they're being taxed and depleted, and you need to fill them up while you're working out. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to continue exercising at a high level.
Let's go to Matthias Villegas. Dave, if Kevin Levrone is successful in making his comeback, what impact do you think he will have on bodybuilding in general? What will we see in the future?
I don't necessarily think it's going to change bodybuilding or the sport of bodybuilding. I think it's going to be like the feel-good story of the year. I think it might create more interest in bodybuilding. I think he might raise the awareness level, add more excitement back to the sport, maybe make bodybuilding for the first time in a long time the most important division as opposed to, say, bikini or men's physique, which it seems like it's been for the last couple of years. Kevin Levrone injects excitement because he comes from an era where bodybuilding was in its heyday. And to see someone come back from that era and successfully be able to compete in this era is exciting. Because now, and John Romano is the one who pointed this out, to see the 90s era get to compete against the 2010 era is something we never thought we'd saw, but we're going to see it this year at the Olympia.
Question on Aqualize from Wolf of Essex. Dave, I hate this show that it comes on weekly and not daily. All right. I'm preparing for my first bodybuilding show, and I've purchased Aqualize to help drop a bit of water for the show. I saw a video where you suggested taking 2 pills with every meal a day before the show, and then two pills with breakfast the day of. This doesn't take into account number of meals, gender, or body weight, so number of pills can vary. I'm a male, plan on competing at about 200 pounds, and my diet usually consists of 5 meals a day. What's the maximum number of pills that is safe to consume in that period of time before the show and the day of?
Well, for men, I usually assume that men have 6 meals a day. And if they have 6 meals a day, that's 12 pills they would take a day. So if you're having 5, you might want to, throw an extra 2 in there just to bring it up to 12 pills. For women, they usually have 5 meals a day, so that's usually 10 pills that they'll get up the Aqualize, which is a rather potent herbal diuretic that I make from Species Nutrition. So don't take it lightly and think it's like, some kind of just like tutti frutti, vitamin. You'll lose a lot of water from it. So don't stick to the regimen that I laid out. The morning of the show, I usually give 2 pills with morning breakfast, and then post prejudging with that meal, I'll give another 2 pills.
Let's go to our YouTube questions. If you're watching us on YouTube for the first time ever, hit the subscribe button below. As Dave said at the top of the show, we surpassed 50,000 viewers, and we can't thank you enough. This is why we do these shows, all these segments, all these news updates for you, the fans of bodybuilding. And now that we hit 50,000, now we're aiming for 75,000. But in all seriousness, with the Olympia coming up and all the interviews we're going to be doing building up to the Olympia, all the preview videos here and at the Olympia, and then of course all the show coverage, all the interviews, and all the segments afterwards, this is the place to be. Subscribe below. You're not going to miss any of our shows, segments, or updates. Let's go to our YouTube questions and go to Nick DiPietro. Dave, what's up? He literally said, what's up? That's awesome. Ignoring liver lipid profiles, in your experience, how long should one cruise before blasting again for an effective cycle? What about taking liver lipid profiles into consideration?
I'm a big believer in when you go off, you go off. There's no cruising, there's no bridging, there's no taking steroids in small amounts to get you through the off. Because going off means going off. Nothing. Zero. No anabolic steroids. Let your receptors recover. I believe in doing 8 to 10 weeks at least once a year. Some guys will do their off-season cycle. They'll go right into pre-contest cycle, and then I make them go off 8 to 10 weeks, clean out. So some guys I might even clean out 12 weeks. So it depends. Depends on how long the person's been going, how hard they've been going. To me, that's enough. I believe that if you go off, now listen, if you're not a competitor, you're not competing, you might want to go off twice a year for 6 weeks. 6 weeks, and then go 6 months, and then go 6 weeks, and then 6 months. Obviously, while you're off, the first 2 or 3 weeks of that, you can use your HCG and Clomid to turn your body back on. But after that, just let your body relax. No shots, no nothing, no pills. Let your body clean out and do what it does best, which is detoxify itself. And by the way, a lot of people have been emailing me about my 3-week cleanse detoxification program that I offer. It's free. If you want a copy of it, you can email me at huge285@aol.com. I will be more than happy to send you my 3-week detox to help clean you out. Also, a lot of people have been asking me about my site injection oil protocol. We did a show on Iron Rage, I believe it was on Synthol a few weeks ago, and I explained that the 2 products the only 2 products you should consider using are Chris Clark's original synthesized pump and pose or painless pumps. Those are the only 2 products with real science behind them and real cleanliness behind them. I sell them both at DavePalumbo.com. But also, if you want the injection protocols for that so that you don't look like an idiot using it and you use it properly, you can also email me at huge285@aol.com, and I'll be more than happy to send it to you.
Let's go to Shane Esposito. Dave, what is your opinion on any kind of anabolic use after having colon cancer? I've been cancer-free for 2 years now, and I'm exploring the idea of doing a cycle.
Well, anabolic steroids are not bad for, cancer, people, survivors, because anabolic steroids don't tell your body to make more cancer cells and don't make the cancer cells divide more. They don't affect that, okay? But protein hormones do. In other words, growth hormone, IGF-1, these protein hormones will cause cancer cells to multiply. So if you're cancer-free for 6 months, I would not advise taking any growth hormone or IGF-1. That would be ridiculous because if there were cells left in your body, they would grow faster. Anabolic steroids treatment is oftentimes given to cancer patients so that they don't lose too much weight. So that's fine to take. Once again, I wouldn't over-toxify my body with anabolic steroids, but certainly taking, some testosterone and some long-acting injectables is not going to be the end of the world. But stay away from those protein hormones till at least you're cancer-free for several years so that there's no residual, rogue cancer cells hanging around your body that are just looking for a growth stimulus.
Let's go to Frank Marsh. Hi, Dave. I hate the show, but I can't stop watching. My question is on nandrolones. They gave me bad depression in the past. What is a good alternative? I'm on TRT and keep my test at about 300 to 400.
Nandrolone and trenbolone in some people, not everyone. So don't think this is going to affect you just because I'm telling you this. In some people, it raises the hormone prolactin, which is the hormone that women produce, after they give birth, that helps milk production. But prolactin in men, can suppress erections. That's why a lot of people complain about the old Decadic, the fact they cannot get an erection while they're on Deca or Trenbolone. It doesn't happen to everyone, but it happens to some people, and it's usually because of an elevation in prolactin. Well, prolactin, because it's a predominantly feminine hormone, also can screw with your moods. So if that's happening to you and you're experiencing that, just don't take that stuff. There's so many other alternatives from Equipoise and Masteron, and there's a lot of other drugs out there that you can substitute for your Decas and your Trenbolones, and you don't have to deal with that.
Go to MQRKOI. Hello, Dave. Which fats are the best to combine with carbs, and how many to slow down absorption of carbs?
That's variable. I usually, for women, look for them to take in about 15 grams of fat per meal, which is like a tablespoon of olive oil or macadamia nut oil. By the way, there was a great study that came out and showed that, and I don't know if I discussed this or not, Sid, but that showed that the olive oils on the market are really, all of them are pretty horrendous. Most of them are watered down with soybean oil in them. Most of them are not true extra virgin olive oil. There's like one brand out there that's the only really good one. And it doesn't surprise me. There's so many brands in the supermarket, and the price is so variable. I'm like, there's no way that this could all be coming from the same source. So I've pretty much switched anyway. But I like extra virgin olive oil. I liked it at least because I felt that it was healthy for you. But I've completely switched on to macadamia nut oil now, which is an oil that's actually higher in monounsaturated fats than olive oil. You can cook with it because it has a high smoke point. It's heat stable and light stable. It doesn't oxidize at all. So it's actually a better oil, and it tastes a lot better. We produce a macadamia nut oil over here at speciesnutrition.com. You can get it from our website. You can get it from Amazon.com, and a million of our retailers carry it as well. But it's a great oil. It's a better oil to intercalate into your programs because of the fact that we know it's 100%. There's no watering down. I like that. Like I said, I usually have women do about 15 grams per meal. I usually have men do about anywhere from 20 to 30 grams per meal, depending on how big they are. And once again, that dosage of fats will slow the absorption of protein and carbs down so that it can ensure that you absorb all those calories. But, post-workout, you don't want to put fats into your regimen, unless you're dieting or something like that. But I'm talking about if you have a post-workout shake with, like, say, a high molecular weight carbohydrate, like Carbyl, a whey isolate, like Isolyze, you wouldn't put fats into that because that's going to delay the absorption of those nutrients, which we don't want to do post-workout.
Take a couple of more questions. Our good friend Alan Marashi has a couple of different questions about Akeem Williams, so I'll try to combine them. The first was about Akeem's pre-contest macros and how much cardio did you have him doing going in? And the second was about how good Akeem Williams looked. And, of course, this is at the IFBB Baltimore Pro. Arguably better than Victor. His question is, the secondary question is, do you think Victor's name got him the win over Akeem?
I actually think Victor's presentation got him the win over Akeem. And I've told this to Akeem. I felt Victor presented himself like the champion. I felt that Akeem was tired. He was winded on stage. He didn't practice his posing enough, which I've been yelling at him for weeks after weeks after weeks, which we will be doing a lot of posing practice with him over the next 2 weeks leading up to Tampa. And I think Victor outclassed him on stage. But I thought Akeem arguably had a bigger physique, better symmetry, and better potential. So that was a breakout show for Akeem. what I had to do to get him in shape. Akeem's got a very tough metabolism. He loses weight real easy in the beginning, and then it just stops. His body just wants to grow. It does not want to let go of anything. And I had to lower his calories really low. Because I try to do the opposite. I try to say, you know what? Maybe I got to feed him more, right? You feed him more, he just gets bigger. He doesn't get harder. So I had to take his protein down to almost 3 ounces, per meal, and give him vegetables. Protein. He was eating like what a 100-pound woman would eat the last week or 10 days before that show, and that was the only thing that worked to get that weight off him and made him start looking grainy. And we're going to do probably something similar this last week before the Tampa show, because his body holds. And once again, I always tell people, not everyone's body is the same. You would think a genetic freak like him would be easier. You can feed him more. That's not the case. You got to assess your client, and once you assess who you're working with and how their metabolism works, you create a program for them. And you know what? I create weird, crazy diets for him on the fly because I don't know what to do sometimes, and I have to use my instincts and do instinctual stuff, change it every single day, shock his body every once in a while, throw in a little junk there just to mess him up. And that seems to work. And this is something that I can teach you if you take the Secrets to Becoming a Diet Guru course that I do offer, which we'll be giving August 27th again. This is something that I teach you how to do. Not only the science of things, but how to manipulate variables when you get into trouble with certain clients that don't adhere to the rules.
Last question. Will you be doing an Olympia post-show with Chris Aceto again?
We will be doing a pre-show, a post-show, a intra-show. I might need an intra-workout shake to get through the intra-show because it's going to be so long. But yeah, we'll actually have press passes this year. We'll be at the Olympia. And you know what? I want to thank officially SciTech Nutrition for once again jumping on board, supporting all our Olympia and post-Olympia coverage for the next 3 months. Once again, we couldn't do it without you guys. We got a lot of pre-Olympia interviews planned with some of the top Olympians out there in both the men's and the women's division. And obviously the Olympia coverage in Vegas. Our hotels are booked. Our flights aren't booked yet, but our hotels are booked. And I'm looking forward to getting out there.
That's going to do it for this episode of Ask Dave. Reminder, tomorrow at noon. A few weeks ago, you saw the Live with Triple H. Well, tomorrow, you're going to see Live with Stephanie McMahon, of course, of WWE. Dave one-on-one with Stephanie McMahon tomorrow noon right here at rxmuscle.com. For Johnny Styles and Dave Palumbo, I'm Sadiq Faruqi. We'll see you next week.